Well, I believe that no matter where you are, it's now is the right time to get started. I know that a lot of people are kind of overwhelmed with student loan debt. It's not so simple. Possible answers are not so simple. That's why I went out and became a college funding and student loan advisor. You can try to find those on the Pay for Ed website if I'm not the right person for you. But I know that that's a burden that's really harming and hurting a lot of people.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset, everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer. Be sure to head over to clicksandbricksacademy.com so you can access all the resources to start improving your sales today.
Today we're talking to James from Envision Wealth Management. He is a powerhouse in his industry. He's been featured in Forbes and other magazines, and he's got a huge passion for helping the underserved community with wealth management. How are you doing today, James?
I'm doing great. Glad to be on.
Thank you for joining us. Super excited to have you here today. I know you're a busy guy. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your company?
Well, I am dad, so my kids, if they're listening, and a husband. But for work, I do my best to help people make smarter money moves aligned with their values through a subscription-based financial planning methodology. And been doing this for quite a few years, and this variation since 2018. I happen to be a certified financial planner that has an MIT master's degree, MBA specifically. So some of my investing ideas are informed by that. But I also believe that I'm just a regular guy that tries to take some of the crazy vernacular and what can be complicated terms and break them down and allow people to understand and make better decisions.
Fantastic. Those are big accomplishments. You said MBA from MIT. Is that correct?
Yes.
That
Yes.
is, I'm sure that was no small feat at all. I've got the fortune of dropping out of some of the best colleges in the country, not quite making it all the way through. So congratulations on doing that. I know it was not simple. So you
join people like Bill Gates, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's good company, really good company. So you have is it a web interface or is it a mobile app that somebody logs into and kind of helps them make better decisions, or is it a more of a conference call situation where you're talking with your clients?
We believe in really a custom approach. No two people are really alike. If you ask a bunch of questions, some are married, some single, some divorced, some widowed, children at home, no children at home, helping taking care of your parents. There's lots of different things. So we actually have a 6-step process we put people into. And inside of that process, we eventually get to an answer for them. And then we provide tools that allow them to be more engaged if they want to get involved in cash flow planning, because they realize that they need to find some areas of their income and expenses that they need to free up so they can do more of the financial implementation. Then they're able to do that. We also have some tools that can help educate them on things like inflation. Most of us don't talk the word inflation, but we might realize that, well, hey, some of these prices are kind of crazy. I mean, this college thing seems to be out of control and healthcare is going up all the time. So we've got some tools to help educate them inside of their plan to have a better understanding of the why of the implementation.
Fantastic. So we talked a little bit before we got on the show, and we talked about your history and how you got to where you are. Can you tell your progression story on, leaving MIT, getting into the corporate America, and then transitioning into wealth management or financial management, really? And then from there, going off on your own to where, because right now you're the founder of this current version of the company and you're on your own. And that's where a lot of people want to be, but they're also scared to make that jump. And I think it helps people to hear other people's stories on how they transitioned, that it wasn't just a one day snap and, I own this business. It was a journey and a lot of different hurdles along the way. So do you mind sharing that story with us?
Sure. So I went to MIT out of working for Mercedes-Benz USA. I had an interesting career which started in the car industry. My undergrad was at a place called General Motors Institute. But then I decided I needed to go and get an MBA. At the time, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do with it, but got a passion for finance. Got introduced to finance while I was there, but it was during the dot-com days, and I had an idea. And well, a lot of ideas in the dot-com, especially when things went awry with funding, I went back into what I knew, but into a technology company. And then I worked for another technology company as well and helped them, increase their market share. But realized somewhere along the way that I needed help myself with my finances. And my wife and I talked, and we did not want to invest in companies that wouldn't hire someone who looked like me, which unfortunately, I've had some issues just because of the exterior. So in talking to some people, I said, can you help me do this? Well, really, no one really came back with a really good answer, but someone said, you seem to have really taken to this information on this finance stuff. Had you ever thought about making it a career? Well, I said, funny that you mentioned that. I actually thought about doing that, but I wasn't sure because, I haven't done this. I was in the auto industry and in technology things. I wasn't really doing anything in finance. So I took him up on the offer and actually started with Ameriprise. Did that for a couple of years, got kind of recruited to another company, tried that, but they weren't actually going down the road that I wanted to go down in terms of the way that I wanted to work with clients. And I heard about this cool company called LPL Financial. You probably have never heard of it because they tend to stay in the background, but lots of independent advisors go work with them as an independent contractor. And that's when the original Envision Wealth Planning was born. I was on their platform for quite a few years. But then as time went by, I said, what my passion really is helping people with financial planning more so than it is to be a pure investment advisor. A lot of people who are investment advisor representatives like me more focus on just the investing side. But I said there are people with college student loan debt and people with other debt issues and people with estate planning issues and even divorce. I'm a divorce financial analyst that has nothing to do with their investment assets, but they need help. Why should I send them to some other place when it could just be me? So I decided that a better thing to do was to start my own company and do what is now called subscription-based financial planning. So typically that's going to mean that you're going to pay some kind of ongoing fee to get access to an advisor to help you in whatever way that you need to get help and pay for it by subscription. It's not quite Netflix, but some people use that analogy. And I thought, this would be a platform, a way that I could actually do this, but do this as an independent advisor. So that's kind of the progression of how I got to where I am today.
Fantastic. So they pay a monthly subscription fee and they have a website that has information, but that they can also engage with the financial planner to maybe go over some different scenarios or see if their thought process is correct and how they're moving forward. Does that sum it up in 10 seconds?
Yes, that's a quick summary, but we go really, really in depth. If we have some more time later, I can give you the depth. It might make sense to go through, more of a consultation to get the full idea of the 6-step process, because we really go more in depth than most people would actually think about going as we get to know and understand you and look at areas around insurance, all the way to investing, all the way to, hey, if you're getting divorced, what's your new life going to look like if you separate.
Fantastic. And if somebody wanted to do that consultation, how would they get in contact with you?
There, I would recommend going to our website. There's a button for you to select, and it'll take you to our interest and goals questionnaire, a few questions about yourself, and then we will contact you and set up a discovery call. All of our initial communications are at no charge, so we'll kind of go through what you answered there and learn a little bit more about you and tell you more about our 6-step process and how we operate.
Absolutely. And that's at envisionwealth.us, correct?
Yes.
Fantastic. So envisionwealth.us, go there, fill out the brief questionnaire. James or somebody from his team will reach out to you and do your complimentary review of your finances and help you start the path to get on the right track, right? So also, before we were talking, you told me that there were 3 camps of financial advisors and that different camps suit different people's needs. Can you go through that just kind of high level so that the audience knows if they're looking for a wealth manager, kind of what some of the ins and outs might be that they should be navigating or looking for?
Well, thank you. So there are 3 camps, and often the phrase financial advisor is used for all of them. But I'm going to say advisor, it has a SOR. That'll mean something in a moment. So one camp is, I would say, the insurance agent. So often insurance agents sometimes are also have on their business card financial planner. Most of the time, their solutions, if they're pure insurance, will be around some kind of cash value life insurance policy, although term might be an alternative. And in rare cases, they might bring up disability income protection. But under the solution, they often will call themselves financial advisor. But there's technically no investing. Then there's the other camp where the phrase stockbroker is sometimes used, although technically it's really called a registered representative. I've never heard anybody who really says, hey, I'm a registered representative, or anyone who would say I'm looking for a registered representative. It just seems to be such a dull and dry term, but I didn't come up with it. But a registered representative essentially can do investing from stocks, bonds. Depending upon their registration, they may also be able to do options and that kind of stuff. But what comes with what they do is
there an unregistered agent as well?
Well, you can't be unregistered and sell securities.
Okay.
So you can't be unregistered and sell securities. And if so, then that person quickly will find the handcuffs, I think, of the SEC or somebody from somebody's department. So there won't be unregistered. And by the way, you can actually look this up to see what kind of registration someone has. If you look up like broker license, I think it's called broker check. So if you look at broker check, you'll be able to find out which kind of registration the person has. And then the third camp is the one that I'm in, which is called an investment advisor representative. Investment advisor representatives work for registered investment advisors, and they actually do things for a fee. Not only can we do financial planning for a fee, we can also do investing for a fee. So instead of the commissions, there's most often an ongoing fee of some sort, either billed monthly or billed quarterly. People can bill differently, but things are done for a fee. In that case, the advisor is SER. There's some legal issues with SOR versus SER. Won't try to get into that right now. Now, what can be a little bit maddening is that sometimes those camps get blended and that people have multiple licenses. When you have someone who's a registered investment advisor / investment advisor representative, they must keep your interest ahead of their own. They must keep your interest ahead of their own. And that is one big difference between the other 2 camps. Although some of the people may have other designations, you would then have to ask them, hey, in this particular thing, are you what's known as fiduciary to me? Do you have to keep my interests ahead of your own? A danger is slipping between the two. I actually was a registered representative for some time. I dropped that registration. So when people are dealing with me with investments, they don't have to wonder, well, is this investment under fiduciary or is this one not? Because I know it can get quickly kind of crazy. So on the investing side, it's more pure. Some people still, and I do, have the insurance agent license, but when it's insurance, it's clear that it's not anything to do with investing. But those are generally the three camps. A lot of times those camps aren't mixed at all, but they can be. So it's important that you're asking questions of whoever you're considering to make sure that you understand what's possible and how they can help you understand if they're putting on a different hat.
Absolutely. And now, I'm not a financial advisor by any stretch of the imagination. I blow more money than I could make. But at the end of the day, I know that I have all three of those buckets, and I like to keep them very separate, right? I have a cash value life insurance policy. I've got stocks and bonds. And I also have some systems like what you're talking about that you do as well. So I remember, though, when I was a kid, and I was making probably $3 an hour, right? And my stepdad would always say, you know, you have to save some of that. And I'm like, well, after gas and car insurance and all this other stuff, Dad, I don't know how I don't have anything left at the end of the day. So, and those are the people that you enjoy serving the most, right? The people that are struggling to find out, how do I get to the next level? Underserved, under-targeted audiences, right? So let's not go all the way down to an 18-year-old kid making $3 an hour, because I don't think that happens very much anymore. But you know, if
let's hope not.
You know, let's start at a single mom making $40,000 a year. You know, she's barely making ends meet. Like, what is the one thing, or how would you tell her to even start talking about financial planning, right? Because at that point, I think she's probably thinking that she's 100% in survival mode, right? So you said you had some stories and things that you could help us, you know, that person and how they would move forward.
Well, that situation is a bit interesting. I would say one of the things she does want to make sure she has in place is some kind of, I'm going to say in this case, term life insurance. So because you said a single mom, not sure of the age, let's believe the kids are, you know, in K through 8. If something happens to her, then making sure that there is some kind of cash available to whomever she decides should care for the child. That also means that she needs to have a guardianship in place. I had some clients who were unmarried but had a child, and I said, well, what would happen if something happened to you? And unfortunately, there was a death in their family, which made them think about it. And the plan that they had wasn't going to work because, well, your child can't just show up one day at school with someone else that's not the parent dropping them off. They're going to say, well, who are you? And they go, well, I'm the guardian. And it's like, well, can you prove it? And there was nothing to prove. So it's important that we engage certain legal systems. And it doesn't have to be overly expensive. There might be something for you at work to make that happen, as well as having some powers of attorney in place as well. So I would say that to me is at least the baseline. There's some other things to consider, but right. You know, if there's a child there, let's just make sure that there's somebody who's going to care for the child in case, and you know, there's some funding available, so there's more choices of who can take care of that child.
Right. Now, you specifically said term insurance, life insurance, not a whole life or a cash value. Why would she go with a term policy?
I'm thinking that because it's difficult for ends to meet in the case that you gave. And by the way, none of this is pure advice. I'm just talking because, you know, I can be perceived as giving advice. I just want to make sure I'm saying that. That because term is the least expensive way to get yourself life insurance. One of the things I believe in is what I refer to as income replacement insurance. So you said she makes $40,000 a year. So to get the child, let's say to 18, then 40,000 times 10 is $400,000. So
Right.
$400,000 is just generally the income. We can make factors for taxes. I'm just trying to make an easy example and say 400,000. But each year she gets close to getting the child into college. Then you could say the next year, now it's down to 360 and 320, and it's a declining need. And maybe if she's deciding to decrease the policy value, that might free up even some further cash to do some other things. I'm just trying to, at this point, go like the worst risk would be she passes on. There's some other things I'd like to have covered as well. But to me, that is going to be the least expensive way for her to get covered. There's underwriting. Ideally, she gets the best price possible, but it could actually get more expensive if there are some health issues there as well.
Right. So again, we're not financial advisors here. We're just having a conversation talking about some of these packages. Now, the term life insurance policy tends to be the least expensive month over month, right? I prefer the cash value because I get 100% of my money back, right? It's cost me, theoretically, it costs me nothing over the time. It's just I'm tying my money up for some period of time, and I'm betting that I don't die before that's over. They're betting that I do. So I think I win there. And then the whole life is, I'm not really sure what whole life is. I don't have a whole life policy. I think you can always cash out for cash value. Is that what it is for the most part?
Well, let's say that there's the whole category of permanent policies.
Right.
So the whole category of permanent policies has whole life, universal life, indexed universal life.
Okay, so it gets complicated.
Life.
Talk to your insurance broker.
Right. There's lots of things inside of there. So with almost, I used to hate, talk to an attorney and they would give you the it depends. So like it's an it depends kind of answer.
Yeah.
But at some level, you could say how much pure insurance for this issue and for what purpose. Right. And then you could say, okay, if I want to do some things potentially more tax efficiently, then these permanent policies can also provide another avenue.
Right. Fantastic. All right. So move this story along. Some lucky fella sees this lady that's independent and she's, investing in her future, and he makes $40,000 and they get married. Now they're an $80,000 income. Their story's wildly changed in a day, right? What should they be doing to make sure that their family and their livelihood is what they expect long term?
Well, this is where I really like, a more in-depth plan. So, for example, let's say that now the two people are married. They stay married for, let's say, 10 years. So, after 10 years, then both spouses qualify to get the Social Security of the other person. So as we're starting to think a little bit more long term, potentially now, well, hey, what about that child that we had? Again, let's assume we just kept with the one child. Maybe we want to start some kind of funding. It could be a 529 plan. Potentially family members might want to get involved to help the child as well. So maybe that's something. One thing that we do is also talk about people's benefits. I wrote an article for Forbes that is about, I wrote it in this December about the experience that several of my clients had when we looked at the benefits from both husband and wife. One might have like crazy benefits that are good. Maybe one works as a teacher or a government worker. Often the benefits there are great, and maybe the income is not so great. So there's a factor there. But which one should we be leveraging to get the most for both of them? Also, now if they have a health savings account, potentially now what was a $3,600 opportunities now $7,200. Maybe they don't need the $7,200, but at least now that they've got some cash. But even by coming together and living together, there's some common expenses that went away. So now what was a tighter budget might be a more opportunistic budget, but then they just have to think through making those selective decisions and getting the matching contribution from work, or maybe one's got a 7% on 3% funding match and the other one has no match. So these are, to me, when you have two people, you get to work together, look at both sides of the resources that they have, and then come together with a plan that actually helps both of them together.
Fantastic. All right, James, I know we had a little bit of a plan before we jumped into this show, but I want to change my next question on you, and we didn't get the time to prep for this. Are you okay with that?
I'll take a sip of water. It is water.
Okay. So on Clicks and Bricks, we love to talk about the entrepreneur mindset. So, and we've got this couple, and they're now making $80,000. They're saving. They've been together for 10 years. They make the decision to cash out some of their 401k and open their own business, right? And let's just say it's a franchise. So all the insurance needs, all that stuff, they've got the advisors for all of that. What's one thing that they should be doing to help make sure that, and I think this advice would be for, not advice, but an idea for people to use. What is something you would tell them that they should be looking at doing right away after they get that business opened?
Well, I'd say, even if you have the business, think about what the potential exit is. Do you plan on having this for 30 years? Do you plan on hoping that the child that's now 8 will eventually take the business over? So, or maybe it's, hey, we're going to, sell it to the next highest bidder. Right. So thinking about those types of questions, which often isn't what entrepreneurs are thinking. They're raring to go and to get into things. Now that you asked the question, I'm going to tell them, do not think about cashing out your 401k. You're going to get 20% hit on the taxes. If you're under 59 and a half, another 10%. Right. Guess what you can do, though? You can set up another 401k in your new business. Most people aren't thinking about that. You can set up a new 401k, and in the simplest, you can take a 50% loan up to $50,000 off of that ideally $100,000 balance, and you just got $50,000. Let's say both of the two people both got up to $100,000. That's now $100,000 of cash that they now have available that they could put to use in terms of a loan that they're going to pay back to themselves for cash to use in the business without the loss.
And you're paying it back to yourself with interest.
Yes, without the full loss, never to be recaptured again of the 20% and the 10%. Right. Penalty. So too often people just see the money in front of them and they go, well, I'm going to pull it out and we're going to do this. So anyway, that's just one idea that at least one of my clients asked me beforehand and started a business and is leveraging that component. So I would, so kind of like we have two things going on, which is, again, what do you want for the future? I still say put some things in place. Right. So if to understand me is to say that I like to look at the foundation of your financial house. What things can we protect? Everyone wants to believe in the best, yet even as any entrepreneur, we know that the risk of us being successful is very low. So let's work at the foundation. So one of the pieces of the foundation is what would happen if either one of the spouses got hurt and could not work in the business? Would it survive? What if one of them passed on? So there are insurances from a business perspective, more looking at business as opposed to their personal, that they could have in case some of those things happen. So often these risks come to businesses. They hadn't thought about it. It's not going to happen to me. But then, putting that in your budget. And also, like if you're going to continue to save some on your own. I know things are lean at first, but if you can't do the saving still for retirement, and usually we like things at the end of the year that might help our taxes. So you may have to, weigh those things. But if things are tight, still just imagine what happens. I mean, these days we're living with COVID, and we just never know. We just never know. So hopefully that's making us just think more about, it could. I hope it doesn't, but it could. So let's get some of those if-thens that we can, minimize, put those things in place. And then let's then relax on worrying about those and then, forwarding your business. So that's where I would start. Right. We can always figure out how to move from there.
Yeah. So having an exit strategy is really, really important. It's a step that I fail on nonstop because I start a lot of businesses not knowing, and it's an idea, right? Okay, we're going to kick this idea and see if it's got any traction or not. And then I try to figure out how to operate it long term. So I do fail on the exit strategy quite often for myself. But my advice would be to absolutely talk to an accountant and a lawyer. And my advice would be, and it's a suggestion, not really advice, is if you can, set up a trust. But talk to your lawyer, talk to your accountant before you do that. It's really important. If you get into business, your exposure and your liability and your potential for getting sued for random stuff is way increased. So if your assets are in a trust, then they're protected for your family and in most cases, not all cases. Again, talk to your lawyer, talk to your accountant. In most cases, that trust will help protect your assets from bad players in the world, for lack of better terms. So, fantastic. Do you have anything you would like to leave the audience before we go, James?
Well, I believe that no matter where you are, now is the right time to get started. I know that a lot of people are kind of overwhelmed with student loan debt. It's not so simple. Possible answers are not so simple. That's why I went out and became a college funding and student loan advisor. You can try to find those on the Pay for Ed website if I'm not the right person for you. But I know that that's a burden that's really harming and hurting a lot of people. Wherever you are, if you don't have the emergency fund that you wish that you had, just find someone that's going to understand your situation, help you find your own course. I just believe that there's no course that can't be corrected. It may not be overnight, it may take a few years, but I think that you will be okay if you find the right kind of guidance. I like being a certified financial planner and also an investment advisor representative. I like that camp for somebody to help you create the right plan for yourself and the right mix of all the things, so it won't be so overwhelming. If you know how to run a business, if you know nursing, or if you know construction, and that's what you do best, then do that best and go find someone who can help you in these other areas that are quite complex, that somebody can make it simple as your career is simple to you.
Absolutely. And I find it so intriguing that people just don't like talking about this topic, right? I've got my in-laws and my mother, and I try to talk to them about, hey, how are you doing with these things? And they just do not want to talk at all about money with anybody. It is the most bizarre thing in the world to me, because I love talking about it. And I want to talk about it as much as possible because I want to accumulate as much as possible to help my family prosper in the future, right? So it's not everybody's favorite thing to do, but it is important. And if you are struggling, reach out, find an advisor, right? Absolutely. If it's not James, find somebody else. You do not have to be stuck in this whirlwind trap that you think that you can't even start saving. There is a way. Sometimes you need somebody outside the box thinking to help you get there. Thank you for your time today, James. I very much appreciate it. I know you're a busy guy. Congratulations on all your success, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
Well, thanks for having me.
No problem at all. That's it for today's show, folks. Again, my name is Ken. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. You can ask me any question about business or technology, and I'll give you an absolutely free, unbiased opinion. That's it for today. Get to work.